Alright everybody, so this is the video on why it is time for a new social network. Maybe you've seen some of my other videos and maybe you've not, but just for a quick recap on what my deal is here. I like the outdoors. I think everyone should get into some of those backcountry sports. I try to stay as neutral as possible on politics, but obviously as a poli-sci and history student, it's hard to be entirely unbiased. And I generally think that living in smaller towns, not tiny ones, I'm talking 100,000 to 20,000 or 20,000 to 100,000, is about the ideal number because you can actually get to know people there. I also think that the internet is a very messy place. It's hard to navigate and hard to sort information in. At the same time, the social networks we have, not only are they bad at sorting information, but the new trend of talking about censorship like it's a service should alarm everyone. Whether you share the apparent political views of the owners of the networks or not, once they start hiding information altogether, there's no guarantee that they won't shift their interests to run against yours. And obviously for people who are already against the interests of the social network owners of today, you will know exactly what I'm talking about. So to start, let's start with the easy stuff. Why are the social networks today flawed, even if we leave politics and all those things out of it? The main problem with them is that their primary revenue model is based on advertising and consumer research. They don't make their money because you value their service and pay them to use it. They make their money because you look at their service and other people pay them to have you look at it. Their goal, therefore, is to keep people looking at the screen as long as possible and to study their behavior. This should be well known to everyone at this point. Facebook, yes, they run ads. YouTube, Twitter, they run ads, but most of what they do is study you. They sell personal data, which is anonymized, right? They're not saying, Jim over here likes this and tells all of the advertisers that, but they do tell the advertisers, oh, people who look at this page tend to buy this kind of stuff. This is what you should do to try and make them want to buy your stuff. So they're essentially research centers combined with commercials. And there's a few reasons that's a problem. The first is that if your goal with social media is to find out about what's going on, talk with people, and then get back to your life outside of social media, then that is not their goal. They want you to spend time on social media, not use it as a service and then go to something else. So they therefore have no incentive to sort information, make it easy to distinguish what information is important and what information is not, or to at the very least put related information in the same place so that you don't need to either search things by title or hope that you happen to be following the right people. Again, if people signed on to social media for a quick checkup on what's going on and then signed off, they would make a whole lot less money than if you spent the afternoon exploring them. So for the other reason, which is the censorship problem, obviously there have been a few high-profile court cases between agencies like Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube and the US public over whether or not they're taking more liberties than they ought to in deciding for themselves what should and shouldn't be in the public eye. This, as I said before, should be alarming to people on all sides of the political spectrum. Again, even if the owner of Twitter or the head of censorship at Facebook appears to be on your side, once they have total control of information, there's no reason that they will stay on your side. So, with that closed, let's talk a little bit about what would make them better. So there's a few services that we would want to have. Basically, we want sorting, but not censorship. as well as rating systems, which would sort by several factors, so not only like but dislike, but also quality and relevance, as well as a revenue model that's different from the advertising one, and which promotes quality service rather than, let's just call it, addictive service. So what I'm envisioning here, again, this plan can change a little bit, and so far I'm looking more than anything for people to work with, is that the network would run on a subscription basis. So like a video game or an MMO or an old newspaper or a magazine or a club, you pay to have access to it. This doesn't need to be extremely high, right? People pay for Netflix, and it tends to be better quality video than a comparable ad-based service. So that's the first major point. Second point, there would be two main information categorizing systems. The first would be like what Reddit used to do and like what most forums do. You have a sorting system that involves categories, locations, and topics. At the same time, within those categories, you have subcategories. So news, what kind of news is it? Is it science news? Is it politics news? Where is the news taking place? Obviously, we've seen on forums, we've seen on old Reddit, and we've seen on buy-sell sites how those can work. That's something that we need to have. Twitter doesn't have it, YouTube doesn't have it, and Facebook doesn't have it. Those are all things that make it easier to find what you're looking for and then go back to your day. Third, we need to have a tier system to replace censorship, which serves as a way to rank posts by their substance. So what I'm envisioning for now is that there would be 3 tiers of posts, the highest being tier 1, the lowest being tier 3, and each would be ranked based on the level of academic rigor in the post. So in the highest tier of post, the rule, for example, could be that it needs to be a reference to outside information which doesn't misrepresent said information. So say you're in a news category on events at some political rally, a top tier post would be a reference to on-site journalism, or at the very least a known mainstream or alternative journalist outlet. It would include a link as well as a brief summary of what's behind the link. That's all it needs to have. It doesn't have opinion, and it can't make claims as to whether that's true or false. So essentially what we'd call the highest tier of post, it's not an opinion and it's not a statement, it's a link to an information source. The second tier of post can be an opinion, but it would have the rule that the opinion needs to come with some kind of justification. So basically a single sentence or more, but a post which needs to at least include a sentence involving both a statement of opinion and a statement of reasoning. You know, I think X about this topic because Y. Doesn't necessarily need to reference outside information, it can, but it needs to have some kind of grounding to that. And then finally, our third tier of post would be anything that someone wants to say. Doesn't need to be of quality, doesn't need to be spelled right, doesn't need to give justification. It can be words, a picture, a link, it doesn't matter what, but it would still be on the site. And so then with these tiers, what a user would be able to do is filter through them. So you can check off what you want to and don't want to see. This way, if someone is posting stuff that doesn't have any level of rigor to it, they're nonetheless allowed to post it. But if people are only looking for external links, they won't have to sift through these. To enforce this, most of it could actually be done by users, where when a person posts something, they need to rank it in terms of what tier it is, and if people see a post that appears to be improperly ranked, you would have the option to flag it, and then obviously some kind of moderators, which every website has, would go and check if it follows the rules, and if it doesn't, either offer a warning or a suspension to that person who posted it from posting at that tier. So they're not banned from the site and the post isn't removed, it's just reclassified into the proper tier, and then for either a limited or longer amount of time, that account would be unable to label things as that tier. So obviously as you go to lower tiers, things are less rigorous. If a person's posting their opinions and claiming that it's research, now they're only able to claim that they're their opinions. Again, they're still allowed to post though. Next up, there would have to be a ranking system for quality that's both more detailed and more focused on user input. Right now, what social media uses is a like-unlike system. You either like a post or you don't, but that doesn't really say anything about the post other than you want it to get more exposure. What I would recommend, and I'm hoping that we'd be able to get put through, would be that you have a 4-option voting system on posts. You can vote either relevant, non-relevant, true, or false. And then when a person is reading through posts, they can sort them either by popularity, so how many people look at it, how many people rank it true, how many people rank it false, how many people rank it important, or an aggregate measure of them. So the mean, for example, of the relevant to irrelevant ratio plus the mean of the true to false ratio. So there could be several sorting options, and at the same time within those sorting options you can filter by tier. So that is what I'm envisioning for now. Again, this can change over time, and I'm still looking for more people to work with to help put all of this into practice. So it's obviously a work in progress, but that's the groundwork. With those bits of groundwork laid, you can still do most of the functions that other social media does. You can have personal accounts where you talk about things that you want your friends to see, message other people who use the program, and it could possibly maintain things like buy sells as well as club pages. Again, the club pages can have post categorization systems within them. Again, something like Facebook does not have. Say you start a local activity-based club, all the posts are going on the front page, and there's no way to sort them. This makes it so that really, if a club gets bigger than a few people, its page will often both become so messy and so long that it's nearly impossible to navigate anything that's not extremely recent. Again, from the standpoint of the ad-based revenue model, this is a good thing. They want people to stay on the site and keep scrolling down for as long as possible, rather than sign on, do what they need to do, and then sign off. So those are just a few examples of what all this would do. Obviously, I'm hoping this will be something we can get off the ground sooner rather than later, and that hopefully this will grow to become relevant fairly quickly. In the meantime, if you're interested in participating, ways of reaching me are listed in the description. Collaborators, supporters, and critics are all very appreciated. On a closing note, I would like to add an appendix with regard to video-based content producers. A question that might come up when it comes to how this platform would handle video hosting is how we would make sure producers who post for a living would get paid. The idea I've been bouncing around up until now is to give users the option to flag videos for funding. This would work similar to other sites' ad-based monetizing, but would give users more control and potentially allow quality content producers to make more than they are now. How it works is if a user watches a video, they can click somewhere to flag the video for payment. At the end of the month, a share of the user's subscription fee would be divided between videos that they've flagged for funding. If a user wants a certain video to be paid out more, they could reflag it as many times as they want to proportionally increase its share of their pool. The button would look something like today's like-dislike button, where you can click it again to either double down or undo your decision. This would also help to fight clickbait, where under this system, people posting junk videos and profiteering from people mistakenly watching the beginning of them will no longer be able to do that. I'm not sure what percentage of user fees could actually go straight to content creators, but I don't see much reason it can't be half or more. Considering many people also use sites like Twitch and Patreon, we could also add an option for people to increase their content creator fund and donate as much as they want. There would obviously then be a small base pool, but a person could add a higher budget if they want. There would also likely be a management section that each user can access, which would allow them to review which videos they have flagged for funding. Just figured I'd add that at the end here. I recorded this video and only later did I remember that we need a way to make sure people who post talks, reviews, and news for a living could continue to do so if they switched their primary platform over to this new site. I'll close there. In the meantime, thanks for watching.